Okay. You know what? It is 1 o'clock. Let's just, I am going to do, by the way, by way of introduction, Mayor Brad Frost. I'm the chairman of this board. And I would say I'm new at this board position, and I'm new at this technology. I'm more into the Zoom, and so I'm seeing things, but I'm seeing that things are familiar. But just to be sure that we have a quorum, I would like to do a roll call. And if you would just unmute and use the same practices in meetings, and let's just see who's here, and just make sure that we have a quorum. So, Alpine City Lawn Lot. I'm going to, if you can keep just make sure we have a quorum on this, Eric. Okay. I am here, Mayor Brad Frost. Denise Anderson.
I am here.
Okay, thank you, Denise. Chris Finlayson. Okay. Brian Steed.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Your mic is very weak, so I can barely hear you fine. Erica Gaddis. Okay, not hearing from Erica. Brian Cottam from FFSL.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Very good. I can hear you well. Brittany Bill, Highland City.
I'm here.
Great, thank you. Chris Conde, Lehigh City. Okay. Mayor Acerson from Linden. Okay. Jeff Lamson from Orem City.
I'm here.
Thank you, Jeff. Hewlett Bryan from Payson.
I'm here.
Thank you. Mayor Kafusi. Okay. Chris Karn, Saratoga Springs. All right. Care Scoops from Spanish Fork, and I apologize if I'm getting a name wrong. Craig Jensen, I know you're here. I heard your voice. You here, Craig?
Yep, I'm here.
Thank you. Laura Backus from State Park. Thank you, Laura. Julie, Mayor Fulmer, Vineyard. Okay. Commissioner Ainge. And Carrie Malkovich, Woodland Hills. Okay, anybody that is representing somebody in an alternate position, if you would just state your name for the record. Okay. I'm not hearing any. Eric, can you tell me, do we have a quorum present?
Oh, looks like we have 10.
We didn't have anybody from Alpine, correct?
Correct. Unless Lon, have you gotten on? Is the roll call?
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10 on record.
Right now we have 10.
Okay.
It looked like a couple others joined at the last minute. If you didn't respond to the
Erica is here now. Erica, we missed Erica.
Yep.
So does that give us 12?
No, that's.
Or did you already count Erica? Oh, we're getting a few others joining. If you joined in the last just the last 2 minutes, if you just state your name, please.
Brian Zadanek.
He's our attorney.
Oh, that's right.
How many do we have?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
Michael Mills is here representing Central Utah Water.
Okay.
Spanish Fork.
Spanish Fork is Michael Mills.
No.
Who is the Spanish Fork representative?
Councilman Scobes.
Okay. Great.
Okay, so yeah, we have quorum.
We have a quorum. Okay, great. Well, thank you for being here. This is an unusual time and an unusual circumstance in which we normally meet. We'll get to the end of the agenda, and we're hoping by the next time that we meet, Mayor Kafusi is here as well. Looks like she just joined in. Thank you. We do have another meeting as mayor at 2 o'clock with Mayor Kafusi. So we would like to move this agenda along, but yet be thorough. But so anyway, we hope by the next time that we have a meeting that we will be able to meet in person and adhere to all the standards that are set before us. So, but anyway, thank you. Let's move on the agenda to action items. Eric, I'm going to have you just kind of lead out and just give us just an overview of the A, B, and C, please.
Okay, so we sent out the governing board minutes from our December 12th meeting. We also sent out the monthly financial reports from December until April, just recently. So 5 monthly reports. And then we also sent out the tentative budget for fiscal year 2021 that begins July 1st of this year. So if everyone has those, we'll just be briefly going through those. But Mayor, I guess we would have a motion to approve the minutes first.
Okay. All right. If anybody is comfortable, if they've read those minutes, if I'd be open to a motion to approve the governing board minutes from December 12th of 2019.
Mayor, it's
Craig
Brian.
Jensen.
I'll move to approve.
Okay.
This is Craig Jensen. I'll second.
Okay. I have a motion and a second, and I'm just going to go out, not do a roll call, but all in favor say aye.
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 Is there anybody opposed? Wonderful. Okay. Item action 2B is a monthly financial report. Eric, let's just dive into this with some detail, just a little bit, but maybe an overview of that one.
Left is yours.
Okay.
You need to go back. Sorry. One second. Okay.
So the monthly reports, I'll just briefly go through. There's a few major purchases that took place last now. In December, we purchased the forestry heads that are used to mow down the larger trees around the lake shore. That has already been used by the county, and they work phenomenal. They trim down our Russian olive trees great, and we're just slowly using those as needed. In February, we made two more large purchases. We did the Shoreline improvement grant, and that went out to 2 different entities. We did about an $11,000 grant to state parks for a variety of improvements down at the state park, some gravel to extend the south jetty and improve that, a water line, some sand, and some materials for the new park or a playground that they're putting in at the park. And then we also approved an expenditure for a sand machine or sand rake for Vineyard City. I think I might be forgetting one, and then we also made the purchase of roller crushers, which attach to the back of our Marsh Masters that the county have been using where there's a lot of water. So we have mower attachments for the back of those, but these roller crushers, when it's too deep, over a foot deep or so, the mowers don't work, and they put the roller crushers on the back and allows them to do a single pass and smash down all the Phragmites in their pathway, rather than having to do that multiple times. So those were the 2 in February, and that's about it. Otherwise, we're on budget and tracking well for this budget year. When you get to the April monthly report, you can just review that and see that the only items that we're kind of low on are items that are kind of once a year purchases, and so we're doing well. And anything that we predict we're going to get really close on or need an adjustment for next year, we have done so on our proposed or tentative budget for this upcoming year. So that's that for the monthly reports. We could take a motion on that as well.
Any questions for Eric, Sam, myself, or Eric on the item 2B. All right.
I'll move to approve the financial reports. This is Brian Cottam again.
Okay. Thank you, Brian, for that motion.
Second.
Do you have a second?
I'll second.
I'll second.
Correct, I'll second. Oh, there we go.
All right. I had several. Let's go for the record. Let's just maybe state your name.
Kier Scobe, Spanish Fork.
Okay. Second by Kier. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Let's just, any opposed say aye. Okay. Voting is unanimous. All right. Item number 2C, again, I'm going to kind of turn this over to Eric. We've met on this as a board as well. And Eric, if you could maybe just interject anything that's been COVID related in the tentative budget as we've discussed it, if there's any impact on that.
Okay. The only thing from this year that has been COVID related is that we did not hold our fourth grade field trips. And so we are looking to use a portion of our fourth grade field trip dollars to do scholarships for a more educationally related paddle camp this summer. And so folks that have lost jobs and so forth related to COVID-19 have the option of applying for a scholarship through the commission that will cover $100 of the $175 registration fee for that camp. And we are also working with that camp to be down there to have an hour-long instructional portion each week for the three days that the students are there or children are there. So that's kind of the only tweak, but otherwise we've been making do. Some of our promotion dollars we've been using for the Utah Lake is My Lake campaign, and we'll talk about that a little later. But it actually opened up some dollars that we could use to create some videos like the one that was included in the agenda that we sent out earlier last week.
Okay. Any questions? Eric, why don't you talk dates on when we'll be bringing the final budget forward? This is
okay. So we have the tentative budget before you, the three documents, general fund expenditures. We have the contributions portion. It's very close to what it was like last year. We did a 1.5% increase for municipalities and then made some minor adjustments to our other partners, to DNR, Central Utah Water, Utah County, but very similar to what it was last year. This will be presented as a proposed budget in our June 18th governing board meeting. And lastly, we have our capital projects fund and what we are budgeting for this year, the $20,000 for equipment purchases and then $5,000 for access enhancements, kind of a smaller version of what we did last year to stimulate some access improvements. So that is what we have, and that will be presented at our July 18th meeting for final approval, but we could take a motion on the tentative budget as it is proposed.
all right. Let's just open it up for any questions or questions, and then if it seems silent, I'll go for a motion. Any questions, discussion on the tentative budget?
Are we safe? This is Laurie Backus with State Parks. What are the plans for the Utah Lake Festival? Is it on hold? And if so, are we saving funds there?
This year it has been postponed, canceled.
And so are there funds that have been reflected in the budget then for those savings?
No, those are the funds that we've been using for creating the Utah Lake is My Lake campaign.
Okay.
So we are trying to develop some smaller activities that could be beneficial to the state park as far as kind of getting larger groups down there as that becomes a viable option. and we'll be reusing some of those dollars to get some of those stimulus type activities going on down at the state park. We'll work closely with you and with Josh on those.
Okay.
Good question. Very good question. Any other questions?
Yes, this is Brian Steed. I have a question. How does this compare to previous year's fundings from, and I'm curious on DNR specifically.
How does it from contributions? Contributions have changed. This year we did municipalities, it's a 1.5% increase, and then a very similar amount of increase for DNR, DEQ, Central Utah Water, and Utah County. From the time we've started in 5 years, it has gone up very minimally. We've done some years with no increase, and some years we do a minor adjustment just to be sure that we're staying on top of budget items. But we keep this portion of the functioning portion of the Utah Lake Commission very stable, and then work with grants and other dollars to do any of the major projects.
So one question I'd have, I mean, we are presenting to the legislature next week on a 2%, a 5%, and a 10% cut. We've been informed that it's very likely we're going to be facing a 10% cut. And I'm curious how we justify an increase in the commission's expenditures while the rest of us are getting a cut. And I think it would be similar for the municipalities as well. Just for discussion, thanks.
Great question. I guess we are all in a unique position in that the COVID-19 pandemic has caused all kinds of interesting outcomes. As a two-person commission, there just aren't a lot of variables that can either that increase generally and or that can be decreased. Most of our increases are related to insurance that is sort of out of our control. We attempt to have an intern come each summer, and that kind of produces a little bit of that we look for a little bit of wiggle room in our wages category so that we can account for extending the use of an intern in the summertime, but that's about it. So I don't know if that answers your question adequately.
Certainly, I don't want to be a stickler on it. I just was curious on your thoughts.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think it's a great question because we're all affected differently. Any other questions? Mayor Kafusi.
I was trying to figure out how to raise my hand, but I couldn't find it. So just visually raise my hand. So you're stating it's a 1.9% increase this year on the budget, which Provo, it impacts the most because we pay the most. And there's no way we can hold that off for a year because I know all of us mayors are in budget season right now and it's brutal. We're pushing stuff off. We're having to make cuts that aren't comfortable. And so I'm just wondering, is there any way we can push this increase up for this year because of the pandemic, or is it basically do or die? We have to do the 1.9% increase on fees. And I know it doesn't, a lot of your fees are not significant, but ours is 26,000 is significant for Provo.
Yep. How about this? For our June meeting, we will bring an equal budget to what we had proposed last year, so that contributions will be exactly as they were, and we'll present both, and you'll accept the lower one over the upper one, I'm sure. But no, I think that we could probably make that work. I'll go back to the drawing board and redraw what we did or what we're expecting to do this upcoming year, and I think that that's a reasonable request.
I would really appreciate it. And honestly, if we meet when we meet and I get voted away and out, then I'm fine. But I at least would like to have the opportunity to have the conversation. So thank you.
For sure.
All right. Councilmember Malkovich.
Yes, I'm just wondering, because we know that, as Brian just said, that the legislature is cutting funds all around. How much of our budget do we rely on the legislature? Because we may be one of the first ones that are cut. And I agree with Eric Kafusi. We have to be cautious in all of our cities. They're looking at cutting some real things, and I would hate for cities to not renew their membership as a Lake Commission member over an increase.
Agreed. Yeah. Our funding through the legislature really comes through Department of Natural Resources and Division of Environmental Quality, and so those two departments are at the mercy of the legislature, but we do not get a direct appropriation through the legislature.
You know what? Do we have representation from those two boards? Erica, what are you expecting? Do you feel like, with what you're hearing, that this will trickle down into the commission and the appropriation to the commission?
So if Eric can't jump on, this is Brian from DNR. And yeah, we do expect that we're going to have sizable cuts. We were told to expect probably a 10% cut. We are hearing next week to determine that. But I have no idea what to tell you besides that it's likely that we are going to be in a less well-off financial situation than we were last year.
Okay. Ryan, would you? I'm sure you will, but will you let us know? I think maybe between what's being talked about amongst the elected officials with cities, what you're in the state level, that maybe we're going to have to make some modification between this tentative budget and the final budget approval based upon allocations. And I agree with the fact that, as cities, we're looking at ways, are we going to lower levels of service? Everything's on the table right now. And so it's, with what's happening, and it's a very unpredictable year for revenue for cities and for states as well. Thank you.
But to put it in perspective, though, we're only talking a few. What is it? Is it 1.5 or 1.9?
1.5.
Yeah. So it's for probably like $400.
Yeah, and for us, I'm sure it's a lot less. It's a lot less than that. But then again, we're looking at cutting part-time laborers. Our parks are looking at, it's a reasonable request, and I think so. We have a tentative. And I think we can kind of dive into this.
I kind of like Sam. I think we should keep Sam. I mean, it's only Eric.
I love Sam too. Yeah. So. Okay, so I think we have a tentative budget. I think we have some really good talking points and some new data to be received from the state levels. We know how the municipalities feel. Is there any other points of discussion that we would want to bring out so that we can have a good production?
Mayor, can you hear me? This is Erica.
I can hear you, Erica.
Hey, so we are also preparing the 2 and the 5 and the 10% budget reduction scenarios, but I can tell you that our Utah Lake Commission contributions are not included in any of those scenarios that we're proposing to the legislature.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, I think we'll have, what we have is some work to do as a governing board to just kind of figure out where we're at tentatively and whenever we're going to be in the final budget. And we'll have some, hopefully by then we'll have some FaceTime and this will be not so cumbersome with technology. And so any other questions or maybe direction you can give to us as we're going through this last, this from this meeting to the next with budgetary matters? Okay. All right. So I would entertain a motion to accept this tentative budget. And again, with the direction that we've received, we'll kind of chew things over a little bit and modify it to meet the request. I think it's reasonable. So do I have a motion to approve the tentative budget for fiscal year 2021? All right, am I missing something, or has everybody gone quiet on me? Does nobody want to approve this budget? I mean, again, it's a tentative budget at that. Brian?
I'll move to approve the tentative budget.
Okay. All right. Is that you, Eric? If you just state your name, it sounded like you.
It's Brian Cotton, but if my boss just moved to approve the tentative budget, then I'm in line.
Okay. So I'm sorry, I'm just not hearing maybe things again. That's technology. So who made the original motion? If you state your name as you to make the motion.
I'm not sure if I got over-talked or not, but Craig Jensen.
Okay. So I have a motion by Craig Jensen to approve the tentative budget and a second by, can you state your name again for me? Do I have a second to approve the tentative budget?
Was Brian Cottam saying that was Brian Steed that had made that?
I think you referred to it. Brian, are you comfortable making a second to that?
I didn't make that, but I will make that recommendation with the caveats that we've discussed. Thanks.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay, I have a second by Brian Steed. Okay, all in favor say aye.
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 All right. Any opposed say aye. Okay, I'm going to call that unanimous again for a tentative budget only, and we're going to do some homework, and we're going to come back with a final budget to reflect the discussion here today. So thank you. Item number 3 is one of our favorite things we do as elected officials. And Adam, are you with us, Zach?
Yes, I am.
Okay, Adam, we're going to turn the time over to you to give us some annual training on the Open and Public Meetings Act. And I put on here 5 minutes. Is that enough time for you?
That should be good.
Okay, thank you.
And then Eric, do I have control over this, or do I just take the skip?
Just when I hear skip, we'll click it to the next screen.
Right. All right. So this is not the most wonderful time of the year, as the old Christmas song goes, but it is a time of the year because we have to do this. And so that annual training for the Open and Public Meetings Act is required. Next. So the rationale behind this is that these political bodies are conduct of the people. It's the people's business. And so because it is the people's business, it is important that the actions that are taken here are open and that all the deliberations that are taken here are open. Skip. A few definitions here. A meeting means the convening of a public body or a specified body with a quorum present. We'll talk about quorum in a moment, including a workshop or an executive session, whether in person or by means of an electronic communications, for the purpose of discussing, receiving comments for the public about, or acting upon a matter for which the public body or a specific body has jurisdiction or advisory power. A meeting does not include a chance gathering or social gathering. Next. A public body is an administrative, advisory, executive, or legislative body of the state or its political subdivisions that is created by the Utah Constitution, statute, rule, ordinance, or resolution, consists of two or expends, disperses, or is supported in whole or in part by tax revenue, and is vested with the authority to make decisions regarding the public's business. Next. And a quorum means a simple majority of the membership of a public body, unless otherwise defined by applicable law. A quorum does not include a meeting of two elected officials by themselves when no action, either formal or informal, is taken. Next. So the general rule with these meetings is that they're open until they're closed, or unless they're closed. To close a meeting, you got to have a quorum. You got to meet the notice requirements. If it's an optional closed meeting, you have to have 2/3 of the members of the public body vote to close that. If it's a required closed meeting, there needs to be a majority of the members of the public body to vote to approve that. Next. So notice requirements, got to have 24 hours notice. The notice needs to include the agenda, date, time, and place. If it's a regular occurring meeting, notice needs to be done once each year, and stating the specifics of that annual meeting. The notice requirements are satisfied if they're posted at the principal office of the public body. There's no office where the meeting is held, and on the Utah Public Notice website, as well as providing notice to a newspaper of general circulation in jurisdiction or a local media correspondent. A public notice provide reasonable specificity to notify the public as to the topics to be considered at the meeting. Each topic shall be listed under an agenda item on the meeting agenda. And except in emergency meetings, a public body may not take final action on a topic in an open meeting unless the topic is on the agenda and noticed. Next. Going into emergency meetings, so that notice requirements, as we discussed before, may be disregarded if, because of unforeseen circumstances, it is necessary for a public body or a specified body to hold an emergency meeting to consider the matters of an emergency or urgent nature. And the public body or specified body gives the best notice practicable of the time and place of the meeting, the emergency meeting, and the time and place, and the topic to be considered at the emergency meeting. And the emergency meeting cannot be held unless an attempt to be made to notify all members of the public body and the majority of the members of the public of the meeting. Next. What it is. And we can skip this one for sake of time. So, go back one more, if you could. Thank you. So for minutes and recordings, it's required that the date, time, and place of the meeting are there, the names of members present and absent, the substance of all matters proposed, discussed, or decided by the public body, which may include a summary of comments made by members of the public body, a record by individual member for each vote taken by the public body, the name of each person who is not a member of the public body, and after being recognized by the presiding member of the public body, provide testimony or comments to the public body. The substance and brief of the testimony or comment provided to the public under the section listed here, and any other information. Any other information that is a record of the proceeding of the meeting that any member requested entered in the minutes or recording. Next. There needs to be a record in closed meetings as well. The public body shall make a record of the closed portions of the meeting and may keep detailed written minutes that disclose the contents of the closed portion of the meeting. The recording must be a complete and unedited version from the beginning to the end of the meeting. The recording needs to include the date, time, and place of the meeting, the names and members present and absent, and the names of all other present, except where the disclosure would infringe on the confidentiality necessary to fulfill the original purpose of closing the meeting. Next. So general rule, electronic meetings, there needs to be a written policy whether that be resolution, rule, or ordinance, giving the use of electronic meeting before it is allowed. There needs to be notice. There needs to be notice of the anchor location, specify how members of the public can participate, and establish one or more anchor locations and provide space and facilities for the public to participate. Just as a little update, because of the coronavirus, Governor Herbert executed the Executive Order 2020-05, which suspended several of the requirements of OPMA, which at the moment there is not a need for a written policy to have these meetings done electronically. Next. And then there are penalties for violating OPMA. If there was an official action done and there was a violation of OPMA, the official action could be voided in court. Additionally, a knowing and intentional violation or aiding or advising in the violation of the closed meeting provision of OPMA is a Class B misdemeanor, and criminal penalties for intentionally destroying or failing to keep records. So that's all we got.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Adam. I watched. There's 26 people still with us, so thanks for staying with us on that one.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great job. Okay. Item number 4. I'm just going to say for A, B, C, and D. I'm just going to give it up to you, Eric and Sam. Please just chime in and work as a team. Let's just kind of review some of these wonderful things that are happening.
Okay. So we'll try to be quick. The state came out with a new fraud risk assessment tool, and that included some new items. And so you'll notice that these little smaller dots on the right are the items that we have created to be in compliance. And then the circles, I'm curious whether or not these are the things that we would like to undergo. Right now, entities under $350,000 a year in their budget do not have to have an outside audit, but it's the sort of thing that we do have a small budget for. Is it something that you would all want us to undergo? Is to contract with a local CPA firm to do an audit on us. What it does is it gives us an extra 20 points. Right now we're in the low category when you tally us up for likelihood of fraud. But I suppose there's room to become very low. So the 3 items that we could adjust is the second one is to have all the board members complete the state auditor online training at least once every 4 years. We'll send out the link to that in this follow-up email. That one's probably one that we should do. And then the third one, we don't currently have a formal audit committee. I don't know if some of our municipalities or other entities have those. But that's something else that we could undergo is the creation of a audit committee if that's something that you would be interested in. Otherwise, we did add in the promotion of a fraud hotline. It's the state hotline. We added the written ethical behavior document that we just will send out and have everybody sign and send back to it because that's what is being requested. And then lastly, we also added an IT and computer security policy that we'll add to our employer policy book that we'll send out to you and get your approval on at the June meeting. Any questions on that? And also some feedback on those 3 do we want to, I think that the number 5, have all board members complete the state auditor training once every 4 years. That one's kind of a mandatory one. So we're going to send that out. If you have your own entity, you can send us the certificate for that. Otherwise, you follow the link and fill that one out. How do you guys feel about the other 2, number 9 and number 3? Do we want to hire a CPA? We've got $1,500 every year that we've allocated for CPA work that sometimes some years we don't use because it's, again, not mandated.
I would recommend for the audit to save that money for this
Okay.
year.
That's probably 1.5% right there.
It could be. And what about the audit committee? Again, using the items that we've checked, we're well into the low category for likelihood of risks, and the state auditor's office does not say you have to check every one of these boxes. It's more like check all the ones that you're comfortable with to get your entity to a point where you're comfortable with the level of risk.
Okay.
So we'll send them out, and maybe if we could get a response just via email, to let us know that you completed your state auditor online training, and also any feedback that you have on the potential to form an audit committee. It doesn't sound super exciting, but if it's something that our board feels strongly about, it's something we'd be happy to set up and go through that procedure.
Okay.
Let's talk real quick about some super exciting projects this year. We've worked long and hard with Utah County and the Tourism Tax Advisory Board this year, and we were able to get 3 major grants for 3 big projects on Utah Lake. The first one is this one in Saratoga Springs. They were granted $1.231 million through the Tourism Tax Advisory Board. And this will allow for this brand new pier at the north end of the existing marina and a beautiful sandy swim beach with a protection. We're working with Saratoga Springs to find and maximize on the match for this. The next one is for American Forks Boat Harbor. They have a multi-phase expansion plan, and this particular one provided a grant for $1.5 million. That is a 1-to-1 match, and so they're working on pulling together those match dollars, be those in kind or actual dollars. And this will provide a new surface on the entire parking lot, removing the kiosk so it's in a better location, and adding some more additional parking. So, among other things. So this is a really exciting one. It adds a beach front similar to the one over in Saratoga Springs, with some pavilions where they can do rentals and that type of thing to kind of really amp up the destination appeal to this marina. The last grant that we received was for a lakefront kind of interface with Vineyard City's new town center that's being developed over the next years. Probably it starts already, and I'm not quite sure what the estimated time of completion is, but I know that the promenade on the south end of that that will be connected with the new front runner station. That front runner station will be completed by the end of this year, December or January, and the promenade will come out and tie right into this new beach area that will have a pier and a dock and some other nice features. This one received just under a $3 million grant through the Tourism Tax Advisory Board, and represents what will end up being closer to an $18 million improvement along the shoreline of the lake. So the combination of these 3 is probably the largest investment ever on Utah Lake, and we're very excited about these. One other thing that we're doing this year that we've talked about for a little while now, we received an appropriation through the legislature 2 years ago, not at this last session, but the one prior, to do algae treatments on the lake. So we are conducting 2 of those this summer. They both began June 1st, depending on the level of algae in the lake. One at Lincoln Point Marina. This is the county marina down on the south end of the lake, and then the other at Linden Marina. 2 different companies, and they'll be monitoring that, and we'll get some good reports on how effective those are come end of the year. Last portion of my report is we were not able to conduct the fourth grade field trips this year, and so we determined to do those virtually. And virtually overnight, Sam learned how to be a cinematographer expert and created 11 videos. Typically we'll have 13 stations at our field trip, and so 11 of those were able to be recreated on a virtual platform. They were very popular. The teachers loved them. The students loved them. We had over 500 views, which was 223 views per station. And from a per station standpoint, that's more than we normally do at our field trips, but overall views, we get more at our in-person field trips. So we're really excited to do in-person ones come this fall, if that's an option. But if not, we have this to lean back on, as they were very informative and quite a success. I'll turn the time over, Mayor, if that's okay, to Sam to do some communications updates.
Great, thank you. Yeah, thanks for staying on top.
Okay. Just wanted to update you all on two items really briefly in the time we have left. The first is the Utah Lake is My Lake campaign. Just a refresher for those who may have come onto the board in the last year. This is something we actually started a couple of years ago, and the effort of the campaign is to promote Utah Lake through the eyes of the people who use it and love it. And so one of the main elements, the video that Eric sent out in the email that had all the documents for today's meeting, there's also a link to a YouTube video, which is one of the videos with, some of you know the name Todd Fry. He's one of the owners of Bonneville School of Sailing. And he was interviewed on this topic, answering not only not just completing the sentence, Utah Lake is my lake because, and explaining that, but also talking about his experiences on the lake. So we recently worked with some interns the winter semester at BYU. One of them was a film student who did a great job, and he is the one that's continuing that work this summer, helping us create more. We started actually with an angler, Pat Scouten, on the lake, who's an avid angler at the lake. And right now there are a couple more that we're having him work on. We also developed a marketing plan with them. So the plan right now is for this campaign to come to fruition and go out to the public next spring. We wanted to delay things a little bit longer this year so that we have time to create more of the videos and other content needed. And then the images on the screen for you all is just some examples of some of the logos that were developed. The one on the bottom left, the text is the main campaign logo. And then there's some additional graphics that the students came up with that we can use on things like social media or creating stickers or other things to try and help promote a greater sense of interest and ownership in the lake, and hopefully come to love the lake as it is loved by those who do use it on a regular basis. The other thing just wanted to update you all on is the Utah Lake podcast. We launched this at the start of the year, last week, January. So far, we actually just published our 15th episode yesterday. We're publishing episodes on a weekly basis, and they're all on topics to do with the facts, fiction, and fun at Utah Lake. So those will be sometimes historical of nature, other times addressing myths or rumors, and also sharing about recreation. So far out of those 15 episodes, we have about 1,500 total plays across the many platforms that the podcast is up on. And then I actually listed the top 5 episodes as of, I think this is 2 days ago, for the topics that have been the most popular for people to listen to. Episode 1, talking about the future of the lake. A Utah Lake Miracle is actually a story about a rescue that the state park did back in 2008, I believe. We did an episode on the Utah Lake Monster, which was unsurprisingly very popular. We actually, a lot of people reach out to us sharing their own accounts of what they thought could have been the Utah Lake Monster. Recently, we actually met with one of the DWR employees and did one on fishing at the lake, which is growing in popularity as well. And then the Wakara Way Conservation Project, again, unsurprisingly, was something people really liked listening to. So we've heard a lot of feedback on the podcast, both in person. Eric and I have both run into residents who are, they just say, "Whoa, are you the guys that do that podcast? That's awesome. I love listening to it." And comments like that are very common for us via email and social media too. So those are both going really well. Just wanted to report on those for you.
All right. A lot of good things happening. I know that there's some things around us, but we're excited in American Fork to maximize those dollars. And so, yeah, I again, as Garen said, there's probably more momentum towards Utah Lake now than ever as far as just monetary value. And then these are going to be matchable dollars. So some really good accesses to the lake will happen. So thank you.
Great
Okay.
work on getting that money. Yeah, good stuff. Those dollars. I mean, that's a lot of money you guys were able to go out and grab in today's economy. So well done, Eric and Sam.
Yeah. Okay, item number 6 is Utah Lake Water Quality Study Report. Erica, I'm not familiar with him if he's on, but Eric, I'm going to have you take the lead on this, if you wouldn't mind. Again, we're going to lose a few mayors at 2 o'clock.
Yeah, I'll be quick. So just real quick on the harmful algal bloom program, we did up designs for local health department this year. Those were published about a month ago. They basically doubled the toxin concentrations that are considered to be protective for recreational uses. However, I'm sorry to report that we lost our statewide funding for algal bloom monitoring during the legislative session. And so it looks like we won't be able to do any monitoring or data collection to help inform that advisory process this year. That funding has been transferred to DNR to do ongoing Utah Lake studies and treatments. We're hoping to get some one-time money dedicated, but due to the situation, it looks like that's unlikely to happen. So we won't be doing our normal monitoring and website this year. That ongoing funding has been taken away from DEQ. In fact, we lost half of last year's funding that we've already spent. I've got to find a way to pay for it. So no monitoring this year on that, unless some miracle happens during some of these interim legislative sessions. We are working closely with the Utah Lake Water Quality Study Steering Committee on developing management goals for the lake. These are goals that are specific to recreation, aquatic life, and the agricultural uses to inform our science panel to get metrics out of that study that will help in a cost-benefit analysis in the future of any regulations that are recommended by that group. Those management goals and that whole exercise should be reviewed by the Utah Lake Commission once it's gone through a couple more revisions with the steering committee. And then finally, I would just give a quick update that DEQ is working with a number of wastewater facilities, including 2 in Utah County, on using the monitoring of influent wastewater to track COVID infection rates in communities. That pilot study will be completed. The last sampling time is today, and we should have some results in the next week or 2, but it's looking like that might be an additional tool that our public health agencies can use to track community level infection across the state. That's all I've got. Thanks.
Thank you. That's very interesting, that last bit of on the COVID thing. So thank you. All right. I'm just going to refer to the agenda for the next 3 meetings, the governing board schedule for the rest of the year. And we'll stay close in touch with you on any variation from our next meeting. I think that, again, hopefully we'll be able to meet in a body with good separation. Item number 8, any general comments from the board, or is there anybody that would like to give public comment right now? Okay.
Mayor Frost, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hey, I'll speak up here. So I just wanted to introduce myself to this body. I'm new to the organization and this board. My name is Chris Karn. I was recently elected to City Council in Saratoga Springs. I know I'll be filling Big Shoot and Shelley, who spent time serving on this board. So I just wanted to say hello to the organization, and I'm looking forward to serving here.
Okay. Thank you for that. Okay, any others that would like to make an introduction or a comment? Okay, before we leave, I just want to make sure that Sam and Eric, you guys feel like you have, from what we have listed, that we have a really good roll call. We started, but I know we've had a lot of additions. We just want to make sure everybody is credited and we know who is in this body. So
We might not be able to know who the visitors are based on just the phone number instead of a name, but otherwise we have everybody listed. Yeah.
okay. Okay, if you're in on a phone number and you wanted to be included in the minutes, I'll just have you email Eric or Sam. Just reply back to them that you were one of those. We have numbers, but again, no way of identifying. Okay, that being said, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
It's Denise Anderson. I move that we adjourn.
We have a motion by Denise. A second.
Second.
And a motion by Councilmember Malkovich. Can all in favor say aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Great job navigating this technology. Appreciate it, guys.